Yeah, so I'm good to start whenever you are.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, this is Flywrench. That first skip there was to skip the tutorial by pressing skip tutorial.
Great skip.
Yeah. So this game is basically Flappy Bird with a color matching mechanic. I guess I'll start by explaining basic movement, even though I'm not really doing basic movement right now. So I can press A to both flap and turn red. Being red allows me to pass through gates, though it's only when I'm holding A. So I can't be flapping when I'm red, because I can't press and hold at the same time. And the direction of the control stick determines the height of the flap. So upwards is an upwards flap. Not touching the control stick at all is a normal flap. And downwards gives you a little bit of downwards momentum. In terms of moving downwards, so you can either hold down an A or mash, or hold down and mash A. They're different depending on how far you are falling. Generally speaking, that was the first death, you'll see more. Generally speaking, if the fall is larger than around 2/3 of a screen, it will be faster to hold A rather than mash. Basically, the acceleration of them are different. Yeah. And then what else I can do is bounce, which you probably have seen already. I do that by holding X. It allows me to bounce off the walls. Normally, if I touch them, I die. However, if I'm holding X, I bounce off. In many cases, it is faster to bounce, specifically if you are bouncing off a ceiling, because you can gain upwards momentum much faster than you can gain downwards momentum. That menu you saw right there was just me unlocking the next level. The annoying thing is that it auto defaults that when you press A, when you enter that menu, it goes to the next level, which we don't want to do because we need to clear all the levels to beat the game. So you have to know what level that's going to trigger on, and then quickly switch to default to no. So we're coming into Neptune now, and these introduce green gates, which are basically the same as the red gates, but for green. And you'll see this level have a lot more bounces in it, as well as a few interesting tricks. So we'll see how this goes. Nope, that was bad. So depending on how fast I mash before that section, that was also bad. Depending on how fast I mash before that section, determines how many flaps I can get in before these green gates, and the more the better. But you have to mash very fast to get the optimal thing. There we go, that was optimal, like that. So you can get 2 flaps before ceilings that are shaped like that. It's very hard to do. You have to mash very fast and start mashing essentially right when you gain control. And so it's a lot of muscle memory to determine when you actually get control, because of the little animation that plays at the beginning. So we're in Neptune now. All the levels are named after planets, and this game's been in development for so long that Pluto's a planet in it. It's also an unlockable character in Super Meat Boy, even though it came out last year somehow. Get some quick shout-outs. Shout out to Lo-Fi Longcat for her fantastic 44 Pluto time. That's been beaten by 2 seconds by now. And her dedication to not getting her world record back and wasting her life away playing TF2 and CSGO. That takes a lot of work. I just accidentally mashed A in that menu, which took me back out to the main level select menu instead of continuing all the levels of Pluto. That's like a 5-second time loss. So this level, okay, that was not bad. That last bounce in that level can be very finicky. Ideally, you want to land in the corner where the wall meets the floor, and you'll get like a perfect bounce into the goal. But it's better than what it usually is, which is just bouncing you around in that bottom section forever. So this is the second last level of Neptune here, and we're coming into the final one now, which means that we're going to be going into Uranus, which is a terrible level. It's very, very boring. So what I'm going to do instead of talking about the actual level, I'm going to talk about the few glitches that are in this game. So there are 4 glitches that I actually know of in the game. They're not completely relevant to the run. One is two are relevant in a bad way, and one's only relevant in helmet mode, which is basically the easy version of this game. So the first one that can happen is essentially... I need to actually pay attention for when those menus are coming up, and not just mash. So the first one is if you hit a wall, like bounce off a wall at a very shallow angle from above, it might see the... Nice. It might actually see you is instead of hitting a wall, you're hitting a floor from above since you're doing it at such a shallow angle and bounce you upwards. This is only really relevant in Sun and the 4th level of Mars, where I purposefully avoid certain walls to avoid this. The other one is, normally when you're green, your control is locked. You can't influence the game in any way. However, when you bounce, depending on what direction you're holding on the joystick, it will change the actual trajectory of your bounce. And I'm not entirely sure why this works. It's either that for the frame you're bouncing, it actually does give you control, or that it's some sub-pixel garbage. This bounce is cool. I didn't mess it up. The other glitch is something that I like to call surfing. You won't see that until Mars. Basically, if you hit a gate perfectly parallel to the actual gate, instead of going through the gate, normally it would be sucked through. Instead of going through, you'll actually ride along the length of it. It's relevant for the fast strat in one of the levels in Mars, and you can accidentally do it on several levels in Venus and Mercury, and that will usually kill you. The last glitch is only relevant in helmet mode, and that is when... It's hard to explain since I don't entirely understand how it works, but with 45-degree walls that you are above that are going upwards and to the right, which is very specific, but it only works in that situation. If you push your... Basically, how helmet mode works, I need to explain that first, is that it allows you to touch the yellow walls normally without even having to be green. And so it functions as an easy mode. And if you're pressed up against a wall that is 45 degrees angle upwards to the right, and then in the same frame you press upwards and to the right on the joystick and X, you'll just clip through the wall sometimes. I'm not sure why it works, but it allows some of the later levels to be completely broken. I might show that later if there's any interest at all. And so we're coming into Saturn, which is also another boring planet, but all the ones after it are very interesting, in my opinion. Saturn introduces these pinwheels. And the problem is it basically turns Saturn into an auto-scroller. Most of these levels, there's no way to speed them up. Except for like little ones like here, you can skip the cycle. You can actually skip a second if you're good, but unfortunately I'm not. And the thing is, I don't actually mind the pinwheels normally. You can actually do some really cool things with them with cycle skips, and you'll see that a lot later in the run. But in terms of how they're used in Saturn, it's very, very slow and very, very dull. Like, you'll see all these levels are just dreadfully slow, and there's nothing I can do to speed them up. Like, I sort of just have to sit here, be cozy. And so, I guess I'm just going to let chat chill out to the quality beats of this game while I spend the next minute or so going through the rest of the levels of Saturn, because there's not much to talk about. There's a few cycle skips here and there, but nothing that amazing. The mixtape is very lit. Unfortunately, Couch cannot hear the soundtrack, but it's like one of the main reasons to run this game. So this is one of the things I actually like with pinwheels, is when they use the pinwheels to make you go fast rather than slow, because you don't have to be forced to wait. Unfortunately, while that's used a lot in the later levels, in Saturn it's rarely ever used. It's more often used like this, which is dreadfully boring. But we're almost done. This is the 4th last level of Saturn, I think. So we'll be getting into Jupiter next, which is a fun level, I guess. So that was a bit of a skip there. You're supposed to go around the other way, but it's not that hard, and I'm absolutely certain it was intended by the developers, so it's not even really true to call it a skip. Okay, this has a really challenging... Nice, got it. That cycle skip requires a really good bounce on the top there to do. Alright, so this is the last level of Saturn. Alright, so we're coming into Jupiter now. And what Jupiter introduces are these orange fields. They increase your gravity by a lot, so it can be very awkward to navigate these levels, especially when you're just starting out with the game. After a while, you just sort of get used to how much gravity they add, and you sort of just go through it naturally like that. Okay, so this is one of the levels I was talking about. I'm going to purposefully avoid the wall on the right side there, because you can occasionally get the glitch that makes it bounce you upwards, and it's very frustrating. Okay. Another general auto-scroller level. And I died. Classic. Unfortunately with Jupiter is that the beginning levels are pretty interesting. Like, you have stuff like this, which is really cool. You can actually do that a lot faster if you get a 45-degree bounce into the other 45-degree wall there. But I didn't do that. A lot of these levels are very interesting tech-wise, but then towards the end it gets very boring and repetitive. Though the last few levels of Jupiter are kind of interesting, but there's a long span of time where it's just like really lame levels. And we're starting to come into that now. So this level you actually kind of have to do slow. Like, I stopped there to go through that red gate. If you try to go through it as fast as possible, you have so much momentum that you'll hit the wall on the side and there's really nothing you can do. So it looks like you can do it a lot faster, but you really can't. And this is what I talked about boring repetitive levels that are basically the exact same thing over and over again. What was that? Dude. Haha. Man. Okay, that was interesting. Alright, so there's a pretty precise cycle skip. There we go, got it. And died. And we got the cycle skip again, so it's all good. Yep, because you want to mash A coming out of the levels. And normally I can keep track of it when I'm like doing runs, but now that I'm trying to actually commentate at the same time, I'm not paying attention to where they actually are. Luckily there's only 2 more of those menus coming up, one to unlock Venus and one to unlock Mercury. Or well, there's the one to unlock Sun, but you actually do want to enter that right away because it's the last level, but yeah. I like this bounce. Great bounce. So Mars is one of my favorite levels in the game. It's very short and very chill. It introduces these turrets that aim at you. And so there's a lot of interesting strats, especially in Earth, Venus, and Mercury, revolving around baiting them out. This was one of my favorite IOs to optimize next to Mercury, because there's a lot of variety in the strats, especially coming up later on. Here you're going to see the surf I was talking about. So if I do this properly and stop dying to there, I just rode along the top of that green gate rather than going through it. It avoids a much more complex section. It's not actually faster, but it's much more consistent. Alright, so this next level has a hard ceiling bounce. I'm going to try to go for it. Nice. Nice. Thanks for the clap, man. So in the next level here, you're going to see me go towards one roll, even though it's actually slower, just to bait out that turret there, so that I don't accidentally hit it, because that's very easy to do. Fantastic, I keep doing that. It's okay. Doesn't lose much time, but it's just frustrating to do. Again, there's only one more time I can accidentally do that, so whatever. It's all good. Anyways, we're about to finish up Mars here and go into Earth. Earth introduces my favorite gimmick in the game, although I don't like the level too much. The gimmick that it introduces are these switches that you can collect, and they open specific gates. And what you'll see once this gimmick is introduced is a lot of skips, or a fair amount of skips, much more than previously in the run. Because the switches only stay open for a short amount of time before they close again. However, if you're fast enough, there'll be levels that will chain multiple switches together. But if you're fast enough, you can often skip switches and skip long sections of levels. So look forward to that coming up. Alright, so coming up right here is the worst level in the game. It's impossible. Alright, so that wasn't bad. So the window for getting an optimal bounce on that level is very small, and since we're speedrunning, we need to set it up as fast as possible. And so you basically just go for it and hope. Come on, get the cycle skip. I used to think that cycle skip was impossible. But yeah, often on that one bounce level, it will just screw you over and bounce you right into a wall and you can't stop it. Luckily it didn't do that for us. It gave us an escape. Alright, so there's a skip here, and I messed it up. You basically have to be very close to this. And yeah, there we are. You skip a fairly long roundabout section. So you can actually bounce off the right wall on this level, but it's a crazy hard strat because you often hit, there's a little peg of wall next to it. And so unless you're like perfectly parallel, normally what you're supposed to do with this level is not die. Normally you're actually supposed to go around and up and bait out the turrets, but you can line it up properly and not do that, but I didn't. Anyways, we're starting to get close to the end of Earth. And I'm gonna remember, because after this level, we go to the menu. I remember that, so I didn't mess up that last one. Occasionally you'll just have levels like that, which are absolutely trivial. I don't even know why they're there. There's one in Venus too, which is almost identical and really, really easy. I bounce off the floor there, not because it's faster, but because it's a lot more consistent. Basically every floor bounce in the game is for that reason. Bouncing off the floor is never faster, it's just more consistent. Because again, you gain upwards momentum a lot faster than you gain downwards momentum. So Venus introduces these moving walls here. And there's a lot of interesting optimizations in Venus that you'll see. Alright, let's hope I get this bounce. Nice. I've messed that up a lot lately. I bounced too low and hit the wall. Nope. There. I use a visual setup for that level. There's the line that shows the path that the moving wall is going to follow. And then I do 2 upwards flaps when I hit the wall. On that level there, at the very end, I actually stay in the gravity well a bit longer so that I can gain more downwards momentum, since it's a lot faster than falling. Normally it's supposed to go under those, but it's a lot faster to just go above since you don't have to wait for the cycle. You can skip a cycle on this pinwheel, but it doesn't matter because you have to wait for this wall anyways. But on this level, you want to try, there we go, to bounce off the top of that wall there so you don't end up going upwards, you end up going downwards right away. Okay, very hard cycle skip. Nice. And up. Now we're gonna have a bunch of easy levels for a while. Not much to talk about. So this level, I'm gonna give a couple tries to the fast strat. Oh wait, no, it's next level. This level's nothing. This level I'm gonna give a couple tries to the fast strat. I'll probably mess it up since it's kind of hard. Yep, nice. Normally you're supposed to go through the top and wait for a bit for it to open up. It's a lot easier. Alright, this level's an auto-scroller. Get cozy. Okay, there we go. Thanks, dude. Yeah, I really like this run. So very interesting game to optimize. and it's very satisfying to get good at. Since moving in this game is actually a lot more awkward than I make it look. If you watch people play casually, they'll end up like just sort of bouncing around and sort of flapping where they don't need to flap. But once you start to get really good at the game, it has a really nice flow to it, which is just really satisfying. And this run's surprisingly going not awful. Not as well as some of my practice runs. Literally fantastic. Oh my god, yes. Thank you. Practice run I had earlier today was actually only 13 seconds off world record. That's not going to happen this time. Okay, so this strat is easy peasy apparently. It's supposed to be hard. Alright, now we're into Mercury, which is a huge difficulty spike for the game. Anybody who's played the game will know that. Around 33% of all people have beaten Venus, if you look at global achievement stats. And then around 10% have beaten Mercury. Like, there's just a huge drop in the amount of people who have done it. There's no new gimmicks in Mercury, but it uses them all the ones from the previous levels, and uses them much more menacingly. And also the levels in Mercury are a lot longer, specifically towards the end, where they're all between 15 and 20 seconds each. But you'll see people who like blow through the first part of the game in like an hour and then spend 3 hours trying to grind Mercury. Alright, nice, got that first try. That 45-degree bounce there is really hard to set up because you're doing it inside of a gravity well. So your flaps have to be really precise in order to get a right angle. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Probably not. If I do this first, nice. Okay, if I do that first part perfectly like I just did, you can skip a cycle on that pinwheel. This level's trivial. Shouldn't even be in the game. But it's okay because this next level's silly. So the first part of this level is really easy. And you don't see it yet, but there's turrets at the bottom section there, and you'll very often just get hit by stray bullets because it's a very tight corridor. There we go. This Mercury's going really well. A lot better than I expected. I used to have a lot of trouble with this level, and then I realized it's really easy. The first couple flaps of that level I just did are kind of awkward, so it takes a long time to get used to. So we're coming up towards what is, I would generally call the halfway point of Mercury, and you'll start to see a noticeable difference after the next level. The levels will get a lot longer and a lot harder. So this next level here is the last easy level of Mercury, I would say, because you can just hold right. This level's a lot harder than it looks. The exact pattern that you have to flap at to beat the pinwheel and get a good line, there we go, is pretty precise. Alright, so I'm going to give 5 tries to this skip coming up. I've never done it in a marathon. When it was first discovered, it was considered to be a task strat. It's really stupid. I'm not going to count that as a try because I didn't even get to the skip. I had that there, but I didn't bounce. Shout out to Squidclaw for discovering this skip and most of the actual things in this game. He doesn't play the game much anymore, but when the game first came out, he did a lot of work for optimizing a lot of the levels. And I'm blowing this. Okay, one more try. No! Okay, screw it. I'm gonna do it until I get it, because that was too close. I'm really upset. Can't wait for this to go over estimate. So I actually have a visual setup for that strat. It involves me manipulating the camera to go lower so that I get a visual setup with the corner of the pinwheel when it appears on screen. And that's the way I can make this strat somewhat viable. Nice. So you skip a long roundabout section there. I lost time on there since I gave it a ton of tries. It only saved 7 seconds, but it feels good. So I actually discovered a skip on this level yesterday. If I can stop dying on it, I can show you it. This level's not hard. But as you can see, all these later levels in Mercury are very long. So if we wait to pick up this switch, like there, and then go fast, we can skip a roundabout section at the bottom there where we have to pick up another switch. I didn't know that was possible until, did I say yesterday was Friday? But yeah. The point is it was at this event that I discovered it. A lot of people struggle with this level because it's one of the longest in the game. But once you get used to it, it's easy, and you can skip that last switch. It's not even hard to go fast enough to skip that last switch. This level's kind of awkward. A lot of really tight gaps. Okay, I was worried that that bounce there was going to mess me up, but it gave me a good exit. Alright, so this is the last level of Mercury and the second last level in the game. So this one's very tight and awkward, and decently long though, not as long as the last two. Generally, you just want to take this slow and not die. Alright, so now we're coming into Sun. Sun's just one level long, so time is when I beat this level. It has a skip in it, which I'm going to be going for, because it's easy. Hopefully I get it first try. I do not. Essentially, what you're supposed to do is go up through that gate that just opened and go around, grab another switch, but you can just go back the way you came and make it if you're fast enough. You can't do a single extra flap with that skip. You have to do it perfectly. It's very hard. So now we just want to take things slow and not die, since Sun is like 30 seconds long. And here we are. Time. Not bad. It's like high 13. Checking in time, see what we get. And mid 13. That's pretty good. That's better than I was expecting for a marathon. So, if you want to see very quickly what Sun looks like on helmet mode, this will just take me 30 seconds to show. Just select helmet mode, go to time trial, go to Sun. If we go to high scores, you'll notice that the times are like 10 seconds. There's a reason for that. It's because helmet mode's broken. So helmet mode, you can see we have a helmet, and it lets us do this to walls. And then we sort of just do that. Now we're out. And then we go up here. And for some reason, okay. For some reason it only works on 45-degree angle walls that are going up and to the right. And then you're through. Easy game. That sub 10 is possible on that level, but I'm not crazy enough to go for it because that's a stupid strat. Anyways, that's it for Flywrench. Hope you enjoyed. Decap Attack is next.